Good morning. It's Sunday here in the Howard household, Sunday morning. For you, it's either Friday or maybe you're doing this early, it's a little bit above. Maybe it's a little bit beyond if you're doing a little bit late. Either way, it's fine. Please remember that when you get to today's homework assignment, that it is going to be graded out of 100%. So please make sure you use your old notes, watch the review video, this one, and do your best on it. But if things go wrong, I'll write little notes on each problem that you miss, and then you have the chance to redo, and you can redo it as many times as you want to if you want that 100. Go for it. Currently not going in a grade book, but it is just going to be written down for my files and my information just so that I know who has done what grade as far as the review assignment goes to help me verify that you understand what's going on. All right, so with that, we're talking week 2, Friday, review assignment. I'm going to do a couple questions from each section, and your homework is broken up into the same section so that you can follow along with your notes. Part 1 will be part 1 in the homework, part 2 in the notes will be part 2 in the homework, so on and so forth. So take a moment, hit pause, write down the first 2 sections, leave room to do 2 questions with a few lines in between. All right, and then when you're done, join me back here and go ahead and write down the first example. So remember, the first type of factoring we did back on Monday was GCF. We also did GCF on Wednesday. We're going to do just GCF for the first section. So I have 3x to the 4th y squared minus 6xy. So break it down. What goes into 3 and 6? 3 does. What goes into x to the 4th and x? Hopefully you remember that you take the lowest exponent, which in this case is the x, because there's a hidden 1 there. Write it in case you tend to forget about it. So I'm going to pull out the x. Y squared or y? Again, lowest exponent. That y has a 1 on it. This one has a 2, so we're going to take out the one that has the lowest exponent. And remember, GCF is undoing that multiplication, and we undo multiplication by dividing. And then we divide. 3 divided by 3, 1, x to the 4th, x to the 1st. Remember that we have x to the 4th. We're taking away one of those. So lower that exponent, 4 minus 1, give me x to the 3rd. Same thing with the y exponent. Keep the base, which is the y, and then 2, subtracting one of them, leaves a y to the 1st. You could just write y, it would be fine. Now let's do our second term. 6 divided by 3, x and x, y and y cancel. All right, so 2 is it for your last term. Remember, you can check your work a little bit by just redistributing, but keep in mind that if you took any common factor, the distribution would work even if it's not the greatest. Number 2, what goes into m squared and 5m? Nothing other than 1 goes into 5 and 1. Remember, there's a 1 here in front of the m squared. So we're just going to go straight to the m's. M squared and m, lowest exponent. Pull out an m. Pull it out by division. I'm left with m squared divided by m, 5m divided by m. And there's your final solution. Perfect squares, everyone's favorite once you get comfortable with it. Hopefully that's you. Remember, with perfect squares, we're square rooting. Perfect squares are those numbers that are square rootable, for lack of a better term. So, 2 terms, difference, which means subtraction, and square rootable. What's the square root of 25? What's the square root of x to the 4th? Remember, we take half of that exponent. And what signs go in the middle so that when I multiply them, I get a negative? Opposites. Boy, I wish you were here to answer these questions in person. It's a little less awkward. Number 4. 100y to the 6th minus 16x squared. Oh, let's change that. I don't want these to have any perfect squares. So let me change this to, how about we make it 9? All right, my apologies for that. So we're square rooting the first term, square root of 110. Square root of y to the 6th is y to the 3rd. We take half of that exponent. Since 100y to the 6th came first, its square root comes first in both parentheses. Square root of 9x squared, square root of 9, square root of x squared. So 3x, and opposite signs. Doesn't matter which sign comes first, as long as one is positive, one is negative. All right? Now we're going to combine those 2 buggers together. We're going to do the combo problems, which are GCF and perfect squares. But our first step is always GCF. And we'll do other combo problems in the coming week, and that rule is still true. The GCF is still always first. So, number 5 total. What goes into 2x squared that goes into 50? Hopefully you notice they're both even, so I can divide a 2 out of both. Left with x squared, because those 2's reduce out to 1 or cancel. And 50 divided by 2? 25. We look in our parentheses. Are there 2 terms? Yes. Are they attached by subtraction? They are. Are they both square rootable? Indeed. So now I can I can perfect square those. So square root of x squared, square root of 25. And then again, my signs just opposites. You could put the plus in the first one and the negative in the second one like I did, or you could switch those. It makes no difference, as long as one is positive and one is negative. Number 6, 12 minus 3m squared. What goes into 12? That goes into 3. Just a 3. Divide it out. I didn't ask about the m's because this guy has m's, but the first one doesn't. I can only pull out an m if they both have it. So 4 minus 3's cancel out to 1, or reduce out. Look in your parentheses, 2 terms attached by subtraction. Both are square rootable. Keep that GCF in front. Always check and make sure that you don't throw that number in front away. Now, just a word of advice, go back to your day 3 and look at a couple of the problems where we pulled a letter out as well, because I believe on your homework there's one where we pull a letter out. I just didn't hit it here because I'm a little bit limited because I'm trying to keep my videos short. Regular trinomials, remember 3 terms, still breaking down into 2 sets of parentheses, but there were some relationships between that middle term and that last term and what numbers we use. So x squared minus 3x minus 28. We had to write factors of 28. I'm going to put a negative there just to remind me that the 28 is negative. Factors of 28. If you need to, grab your calculator. 28 divided by 2, 28 divided by 3, divided by 4, divided by 5, until you run out of the numbers that work. 2 and 14, 4 and 7. I know when I combine them together that I need to make negative 3. So when I'm breaking this down, I got x and x no matter what, because x squared only breaks down into x times x. But now I need to choose the pair that could combine to give me negative 3 once I drop some signs in place. Remembering your rules for addition and subtraction. Your larger number will always have to have that sign on that middle term. So I got negative 3 here. So I know 1 and 28, you're not going to do anything to get 3 there. 2 and 14, nope, it's going to be either 12 or 16, right? If I combine them or subtract them, if I'm combining negatives in there. 4 and 7, oh, I can do something there to get me negative 3. What signs? Well, if you need to, experiment with both. What's 4 combined with negative 7? What's negative 4 combined with 7? You know the signs have to be opposites to multiply to give you a negative. Which one of these pairs gives you negative 3? I do still have some people who really struggle with positives and negatives. It's okay. But as long as you know that about yourself, use your calculator to check your work so that you're sure you get it right. So it looks like the 4 gets the positive and the 7 gets the negative. Eyeball check that I talked about way back on yesterday. So 4 times negative 7, is that negative 28? And 4 combined with negative 7, is that negative 3? If the answer to both of those questions is yes, then you know you have it correct. Number 8. W squared plus 7w minus 30. Factors of 30, drop that negative in to remind yourself that it needs to multiply to give you a negative. 30 has a handful of factors. The elusive number 2 that people like to forget about. 3 and 10. 4 doesn't go in, but 5 does. So 5 and 6. And I know that they have to combine to give me 7. Well, 1 and 30 would give me 31 or 29 if I toss a negative in there. 2 and 15 would either be a total of 17 or a total of 13 or negative 13, so that doesn't work. 3 and 10 combined to give me 13, or if I put a negative in, that would be 7. Oh, look at that. Same game with the signs. Only way to break down w squared is w and w. But when it comes to the 3 and the 10, I got to come up with a sign for both. It needs to combine to give me 7. Remember, your rules for signs is that the larger number gets the sign on your answer. So since the sign on my 7 is positive, which one is larger, 3 or 10? Oh, the 10 is. And again, you can check both. I got 3 and 10. I know one of them has to be negative. Check -3 plus 10. One of them has to be negative, so 3 plus -10. Move the sign from the negative, move the negative from the 3 to the 10. See which one gives you positive 7. -3 plus 7, -3 plus 10 is 7. 3 plus -10 is -7. That's why this pair was chosen, the -3 and the 10, because it gives you that positive 7 in the middle. All right, do your homework, do it carefully. Remember while you're doing it that it will be marked with a % grade, and check back to see what grade you get so you can always correct it. All right, thank you so much. Take care.